Hi, I'd like to talk to you today about Murphy. Now, maybe you're thinking of Eddie Murphy or some other famous Murphy. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Murphy as in Murphy's Law, which really is not actually a law. It is just an opinion, and it's correct, but it's also terribly, terribly wrong. You see, Murphy's Law depends a great deal upon one factor, and that factor is your mindset. So, if you subscribe to Murphy's Law, which states that if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, if you firmly believe that that is the truth, then you will do and say and think, obviously, things that will make that come true. I know this from personal experience because when I was younger and I was depressed, I even had a poster with Murphy's Law on it in my bedroom. I think it was not a wise choice. Putting up posters with negative messages on them is a great way to brainwash yourself, but a horrible way to advance yourself in life. So I made that mistake. I made that mistake because I was a miserable, unhappy mess, and I just felt like life kept on going wrong, and I used to say stupid things like, what was it that I used to say? Life sucks and then you die, that kind of thing. Yeah, depression does a lot of bad things to your mindset. And it seemed to come true a lot of the time. Not all the time, but when you're depressed and you're thinking pessimistically, you tend to, and I didn't even realize I was a pessimist. I thought I was a realist. When you think negatively, pessimistically, you tend to cause those things to come true. Not consciously, but you will overlook opportunities that are right there in your face. Or you will turn down even opportunities because you feel that for whatever reason you're not worthy, perhaps, or it's not real, or something like that. Even if it very patently is real, you will not feel that way, and you'll just brush it aside. And you will say, I'd rather not hope, because then I don't get disappointed. And I understand that. Sometimes life can be very frustrating and stuff. But there are times also when life is really great. And I understand that there are people who are in situations where they feel like they're running neck deep in shit all the time. But you got to learn to find the pearls. You got to learn to find those things that make you smile, that make you feel good, that make you feel whole and safe and happy and fulfilled and things like that. Even when your life is full of negativity, you have to hold on to that. Why? Because if you don't, you get sucked down and you become shit. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They sink. I sank. I still struggle with it, but I'm a lot better. I don't sink into it anymore. So this is why Murphy's Law is true. Because of our mindset, our negative predictive thinking, for example, where we anticipate the worst in anything that we're considering doing. And where we are always not looking for opportunities so much as just trying to keep our head above water. It can be completely demoralizing, and you can become amoral because of it. Because you figure, well, if everyone's shitting on me, I'm going to shit on them too. And you feel you're justified. But the truth is, no. So, here's why it's not true. Here's why it's a load of bullshit. And that is because Murphy's Law is not a law, because it depends on and requires a negative mindset. So, let me give you an example. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Well, if that were the case, you'd be dead already. I'd be dead already. You would have experienced 10 million times of horrible things every year of your life. Your car would not start on a regular basis. You'd lose your job every other day. You'd get food poisoning every day. If anything that can go wrong will go wrong is true, that means that nothing will go right. Well, you were born, weren't you? That's a success right there. You learn to walk, you learn to talk. Maybe you learn to ride a bike or drive a car or something else. Maybe you learn, you went through school. There are all kinds of examples of things not going wrong. So that by itself proves that Murphy was just a pessimistic, grumpy person who didn't know how to look at life right, like I used to be. So if you change your attitude to become positive. Now, when I say positive, I don't mean unrealistically positive, like, I'm going to be president tomorrow. That kind of, or more, or even worse, I'm going to fly across the world like Superman. Well, that's just stupidness, okay? That is an unrealistic expectation. Unless it's the night of the presidential election and you're winning, then you can say, I'm going to be president tomorrow. That's the one situation in which that would be an appropriately positive belief. But if you engage in positive predictive thinking that, I'm going to make this sale, which is what salespeople do. They're going to make the sale. And if not this sale, then it's going to be the next one. If not that one, then it's going to be the next one. It's going to be one of the sales coming up, and it may be a whole string of them, and I'm going to walk home with $1,000 in my pocket after 2 hours of work. Or you can look at it and you can say, I see this person who I'm really attracted to, and I really want to go over and talk to him or her and get to know this person and see if this is a person I would like to, maybe date, or at least get, something. And if you're a negative person like I used to be, you'd be like, well, she might say no. She might laugh at me, she might mock me, she might insult me, she might slap me, she might accuse me of harassment or sexual harassment, because that's a real problem in this country these days, where you can do nothing but ask somebody out on a date and be accused of harassing that person. Not to diminish the real cases of harassment and sexual harassment, so please don't jump to conclusions there. So I look at a woman, and not a girl, okay? Girls are under 25, okay? Let's just set that limit right there. Once you are 25, you are a woman, okay? If you want to be if you want, I'll give the 18 to 25 as a young woman. But you're not fully a woman, or a man for that matter, until you're around 25. And in men's cases, often like 30 years old, and some men and some women never grow up. So I look at a woman, and I'm attracted to her. I'll start talking to her. It's not like it used to be. Of course, then again, I'm no longer on the market. And that, that's a story I've already addressed elsewhere. But the point is that I won't go into it thinking she's going to reject me or be mean to me or something like that. I go into it just thinking, well, I'd like to go get to know her and see what happens. And just leave it as a question mark. That's a lot better. You don't know what's going to happen. And so, if you go into it with a positive expectation that you're going to make friends with somebody, or at the very least, that you don't have any expectations, you just go in to see what happens. It's a lot better than going into it with the expectation that you're going to fail miserably. Then, yeah, you're not in a situation where you're thinking negatively likely to succeed, even if you do make the attempt. But most people who negatively predict what's going to happen, they don't even make the attempt. They're like, well, most likely if I go apply for this job, I've got most of the qualifications, but I don't know this one piece of software that they've got listed here, and, oh, gosh. I've got 15 years of experience, but I don't know that software. Oh, crud. Well, I better not apply because I'm not qualified. Now, there's a difference between that and looking at a job that you want to have, but you have little to no experience and you don't meet most of the qualifications. That's an unrealistic hope, okay? But when you go into the job search, which I've been doing for such a long time and is really getting on my nerves, with the negative expectations, you're going to look at a lot of jobs for which you are very qualified, and you're going to say, no, this is not something that they're going to accept me for because I have 95% of the qualifications they're looking for, and I know how to do what they're describing for the job position, but there's that 5%, so I better not apply. Yeah, that's just negative predictive thinking, making you stupid. Walking away from an opportunity. Are you necessarily going to get that job? Well, no, because a lot of it hinges on how good you are at writing a resume and how good you are at writing a cover letter. But and if you actually get past, if you actually do well enough to get to the point of interviewing, then you have to pass the interviews and the tests if there are any. So it can be challenging, yes, but that doesn't mean you should go into the job search mode with the expectation of failure. Because you don't fail unless you give up. So what I'm saying here is you can get 1,000 rejections. And I'm well on my way to that. But that doesn't mean you failed. That just means that you haven't yet found the right, I guess you could say, combination of factors so that you get a yes. And honestly, if you're so frustrated or so in need of a job, you can always go and find a job that's got lower criteria, because there are lots of jobs out there that don't have much criteria at all. I mean, Amazon, as long as you're not like a felon or something like that, they'll probably hire you. They're not that fussy. And there are a bunch of other companies, even companies that take felons out there that you could go to. So, you can make all the excuses you want and say, well, nobody's going to hire me. Well, sure, if you're not applying, if you're not trying, if you're not impressing people, going to an interview looking dressed appropriately, looking nice, talking nice instead of talking like some Irish gangster from the 1870s or something like that. Well, yeah, sure. Then you can expect failure, if you're not doing these things. But if you're playing the game, if you're dressing nice, talking nice, behaving nice, and have the qualifications, somebody eventually will hire you. Maybe it's not going to be the job that you want, but it's the job that you need to, pay your bills, save up money, that sort of thing. And this is why Murphy's Law falls flat, because it's impossible for it to be true. If anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I mean, that's just like you must be living on the surface of the sun. Well, that wouldn't last very long, would it? Because, yeah, sure, if you're on the surface of the sun, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it'll only be one thing, and it'll be you being extinguished instantly. So, some things will always go, some things sometimes will go wrong. It's inevitable. Nobody lives a charmed life, okay? Now, if you live a charmed life, I would love to meet you and find out if you're just full of shit or not, and you probably are. Or maybe you're just extremely rich and you force everything to go right by using money. But if you keep this in mind, that your mindset is your most powerful adversary or ally, you can turn your life around. That's all that matters. So take that Murphy's Law stuff and shove it in the garbage can. Take your negative attitude, your negative predictive thinking, your mental tornadoes, your guilt and all that other stuff, shove them somewhere and start looking at the world in a positive light. Instead of finding excuses to give up or to fit in with the criminals or whatever it happens to be. Find excuses not to. Find excuses to excel, to succeed, to escape from the unpleasant reality that you are stuck in at this time. I have met people who grew up in a ghetto. Okay, and they were some of them that I have met. These guys literally were criminals, and they walked away from that life. They were able to do it. I mean, there's stories of these kind of people all over the place. Some of them still are secretly criminals, and they have this public front that they present. But some of them legitimately walked away from a life of crime and are good people now. I've met people who escaped the ghetto because they realized they could. I've heard people from ghettos saying, "Well, I don't have a choice. I have to join a gang, or I'm going to get killed." No. Doesn't matter whether you're currently a gangster or you are just being victimized. You can choose to pick up and leave and go somewhere else. Find resources. Go to a library that has a computer. Get on the internet. Start searching for safer places to live. And yes, maybe it's going to be a struggle at first, but if you can get away from those horrible places, you can get away from the people who are going to drag you down, drag you into drugs, drag you into crime, whatever, alcoholism, then you can save your life. And that is what I have been doing. I've lived in bad neighborhoods. I once lived in Denver in an apartment building that was basically efficiency apartments. So I had this one room with a kitchenette. I mean, it was like when you walk through the kitchenette, you walk sideways to get through it, get past the fridge and the stove, and a tiny little bathroom, and that was $50 a month. Yeah, and when I moved in, this one guy offered to help me, and I think he stole some of my boxes as he was helping me. There were some nice people there too, but it wasn't exactly a wonderful situation. And it was way too small for all the crap I had at the time. But don't listen to Murphy. He was an idiot. He was probably horribly depressed and had made his life far worse than it needed to be. Change your mindset. Throw away the Murphy's Law nonsense, and things will get better. I'm living proof of it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.